you had a clear opinion. You were of the opinion that they should strengthen the work of the gold board, strengthen the CD against the dollar up to about 20%.
Yeah.
That would deal with the situation. Government's move is towards the taxes and levies which you advise against. What do you think of the way government has proceeded on this matter?
Okay, before even commenting on yesterday's decision, I think that prices are dropping on the international market, especially the price of diesel, and critically affecting the market. Price of diesel may even decline on 16th April without any tax cuts. Because if you compare last week's bill, we use about $1,300 per metric to set the price of diesel locally. But as we speak on the international market, diesel is being around 1,230. So there's been a drop of about $70 per metric. And we are still within the period which PA takes data for the next window. So if the price stays on Monday and Tuesday, probably the price of diesel will decline at the pump beginning 15th April. Now, to your question, I think that since situations change, even the market is very volatile. So earlier positions may change based on the volatility or uncertainty in the market. But I still stand by my earlier position that based on our laws with the fiscal framework, it's sometimes difficult to stop taxes or remove taxes on the build-up than using the monetary policy, whether gold for reserve or reserve for oil or gold for oil or whatever you want to do, because that is not mostly within a fiscal ambience or maybe legal ambience. So, for example, when I heard the communique from the presidency that in the next 4 days or so, a delegation or authority has been dedicated to two ministries to practically look at the market to cut some of the taxes, I was a bit confused because the taxes are there based on legal means. They are there based on some fiscal regime. Special petroleum tax was introduced on the build-up by an act of parliament, which is 879, the original act, and subsequent amendment 965 in 2018. The Energy Sector Levy Act was also introduced by an act of parliament, 2015-899, with various amendments. I think the latest amendment is 2025, which is 1141. So my understanding of the law, so now you are the lawyer, you may educate me and enlighten me on some of these issues.
Please, I'm not a lawyer.
Okay. Then maybe Sabiga or Nanabo or Eric. So my understanding of the law is that if you want to maybe introduce or remove any tax which are introduced through laws, you need to amend the law. That's my understanding. So in the next 4 days that Parliament is on recess, I don't know how government will be able to remove that. Maybe through an executive instrument, I don't know. But I don't know how government will be able to suspend the collection of these levies when the laws have not been amended. And I take you from the road toll levy and the then opposition posture with respect to that particular levy. So I think that we need to look at that well. Now the second part.
Okay, so for the first part for you has to do with clarity on how this can be done without resorting to Parliament.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
All right. So the second part also has to do with the time within which this decision will be implemented. As we speak, some of the OMCs have already procured the product beginning 16th, which is the second window of April. They've paid for it already. And when you are paying, especially the OMCs that do cash and carry, some of the smaller OMCs, you pay the taxes and the levies upfront. And even some of the margins, you pay them upfront. So if you pay these upfront, thinking that you've paid them, now that government is saying we are cutting the taxes, we are going to cut some of the taxes, how will this money be refunded to these OMCs? So I think that the best practice should have been that we observe the market and then maybe adjust in windows and decide that maybe in the next 2 windows or 3 windows, these are the measures government will take within the petroleum dams with respect to pricing. But to go in that fast, it is likely going to be a problem because some of the OMCs will still sell the product with a tax that has been cut because they've already paid for it, unless maybe government assures them that there will be some redemption or maybe government will pay those levies or tax back to them. So I think that the period with respect to implementation of this directive is also too short. We ought to have given ourselves some 2 weeks or 3 weeks so that the market adjusts itself to be able to take care of it. And I will take you from the introduction of the one Ghana cedi levy in July. You know, when government wanted to introduce the one Ghana cedi within a certain short period, the OMCs and COMA came out to say that no, they needed some time to prepare their members to be able to pay for that. And that is the same situation today. Some of them have paid these taxes upfront already. So if you give that short period, it makes it very problematic for them. So we ought to have also given some time frame. But in all, I think that it is fair because Ghanaians have been calling for it, and government has also decided to respond to Ghanaians. But the issue is that prices are likely going to decline in the coming years. Even though it is uncertain, it's unpredictable, it's quite volatile, but based on the data available today, prices are likely going to decline beginning 16th of April.
Mm. And that decline that you're predicting it's not conditioned on what is being announced by government. You're saying that data on the international market alone shows that prices will go down anyway.
Yes.
Okay, I see. Very interesting. Are you suggesting, because when it comes to the taxes and levies, you said they have already paid those taxes and levies for this window?
Next window.
For the next window?
Yes.
Okay, so even if it is taken off tomorrow, you don't see how it will have an effect in the next pricing window?
Yes, at the pump. I don't see how it is, unless government brings a framework of refunding those taxes back to the OMC, because some of them signed window contracts. So observing the market, if the price of the product, for example, is likely going to increase, some of them prepay for their products so that they secure the supply before the window kicks in. And we are also within a period where there's abundance of the products on the market, but price is quite volatile. And some of them have decided to take risk by procuring the next Windows product. And if you look at our practice, we have maybe 3 types of paying our tax. We have the cash and carry. If the GRA observes you to have high risk or a new entrant in the industry, you have to pay your tax and levies before you even lift the product. We have bonded, where GRA observes you to have moderate risk. GRA may decide that the bank guarantees you so that you can lift and then later you pay the taxes. We also have deferment, where through low risk GSA can, GRA, for example, can also decide that they defer your taxes, that if you sell, then you pay the taxes later. So mostly, we have about 200 OMCs, and most of the OMCs do cash and carry. And those cash and carry are what I think that there will be a major problem with respect to implementation, because they've already paid the government these taxes. So if they pay the government these taxes and you are telling them not to collect, it means that it's going to be a loss to them or cost to them. And that is very challenging for them. But if government brings an additional communique indicating that any OMC that has paid these levies or taxes upfront will have some refunds, I think that they may decide to implement these decisions beginning 16, because there's some form of assurance from government.
Then I wanted your views on, because now the decision has to be made between the Energy Ministry and the Finance Ministry. Now, two institutions, but you know the sector quite well, and I'm sure you know the taxes, the levies, and the margins. Which of them are available for this? Which of them do you think should be targeted for this suspension?
So it depends on government policy and how they want to see fuel price in the larger macroeconomic context, in terms of how they want to stabilize inflation, in terms of how they want to manage some distress on forex, in terms of how they want to manage some deficit and also government or general economic growth. So it will not be straightforward to say that let's take this out or let's take this out. It depends on the whole framework of government policy in terms of the macroeconomic indicators. But let's look at the tax and then levies. I think that anyone who says we may scrap margins doesn't actually understand the petroleum downstream. Government will not be able to touch the margins, maybe, probably, boss margin. Aside boss margin, I think that government will not be able to touch any of the margin because one, UPPF is just transport cost. The consumer pays for this transport for transporters and drivers of these products. So if you touch the UPPF margin, it means that transporters will come after you because their profit or maybe their cost recovery has been slashed. If you touch primary distribution margin, 26 pesos per liter, transporters will come after you because it's an interdepot margin. So you cannot touch it. Fuel marking margin is quality assurance marking. You can also touch it. And it's even quite insignificant, it's just 9 pesos per liter. But most, because of infrastructure purpose and because it goes to government-owned entity, government may consider that. But boss may also face challenges in terms of paying some compensation or wages at their office because that money mostly is used to pay workers at boss. So I see some difficulty in taxing or scrapping those or removing or halving some of these margins. So let's look at the 4 tax and levies. Those days used to be about 7, but now since 2025, we already have 4 tax and levies on the build-up. So the first tax is the special petroleum tax. It's only 46 pesos per liter on petrol and diesel. So government may decide that 46, if the 46 falls within the whole framework, government framework of inflation, forex, deficit, and whatever, if 46 fits in government whole policy, government may decide to scrap the special petroleum tax because it was even introduced by Honorable Setepe in 2014 for certain fiscal deficit purpose because revenue was quite declining due to shortfall in petroleum revenue. So if government decides that let's scrap the 46 pesos per liter and it fits within the whole macroeconomic framework, we can consider that. The largest levy in the build-up is what is in the Energy Sector Levy Act, which is currently 141, is the Energy Sector Shortfall and Debt Repayment Levy. So it is 1 Ghana cedis 95 pesos per liter on petrol, 1 Ghana cedis 93 pesos per liter on diesel, and then 1 Ghana cedis 73 pesos per kilogram on LPG. They are the highest. So government may consider that, okay, let me have the energy sector shortfall and debt repayment levy. Or let me even take the 1 Ghana cedi so that there will be 95 pesos on the build-up. That is also considered, but that must be considered in the broader context of the other macroeconomic indicators. Then we come to the next levy, which is the energy fund levy. It's quite insignificant and it will not even mean anything if that is even taken off the build-up because it's only 1 peso per liter. And then we come to the last levy, which is the road fund levy, 48 pesos per liter. So the 48 pesos per liter with the road fund, government may also decide that let's also take 48 pesos per liter of the build-up so that we are free. In any way, the 3 levies, or including the tax, which is the special petroleum tax, government could decide to halve each of them. And then so 50%, or maybe 30% on this to accumulate a certain figure that government wants to withdraw from the tax or price buildup. Because it also fits into the revenue or the intentions for those levies. Road fund is for the road sector. So if you scrap it totally, it means that about 3 billion or more may not go to the road sector. If you scrap the totality of energy sector shortfall and debt repayment levy, means that about 11 billion will not go to the energy sector to defray IPP debt or legacy debt and even procure fuel. If you scrap the special petroleum tax, it means that government may not get some revenue for other activities in the budget or in terms of projects in the budget. If you scrap the totality of energy fund, which is only 1 peso per liter, it means that Energy Commission may not get its funds to be able to support some efficient and conservation activities within our energy landscape. So we may have them, but in all, it must be situated in the broader context of our macro economic indicators.
Interesting. I guess they are doing that analysis as we speak now. But I wanted to find out from there those who were of the opinion that perhaps due to the developments in this conflict, government should have at least started, maybe decided to slow down on taking any further measures, that they shouldn't have even come out at all and just watch the space because, like you said, the problem could be solved over time, maybe within the shortest possible time by the developments on the international market, and the international market itself. What do you think about those people who hold that opinion, that there was no need to touch it at this time?
I think in the last 2 days, I also hold that opinion. Earlier, I was supporting some of the measures I mentioned earlier, forex support, or maybe tax cuts when prices were escalating. But today, I don't support any tax cut because anyway, the price is plunging and prices are likely pushing to normal. And this also must tell us something, that our pricing regime needs reforms. It needs some form of review because it's not sustainable. Because anytime there are some of these external shocks, it increases our prices too high that it affects every aspect of our macro economy. So we need to critically relook at the whole pricing structure or regime in Ghana and then maybe reform it to a better sustainable regime that may not have impact on a lot of indicators. And that I propose a dual pricing model, a balanced pricing model, where we cap the prices of products, the price of petroleum product at a level based on our macroeconomic expectations or targets, so that when the crude prices are exceeding a certain threshold, just like what the Chinese do, when they are exceeding a certain threshold that brings in additional revenue from our upstream, we could relax some of the taxes so that we use the additional unexpected revenue or windfall to cushion any revenue shortfall that may arise because of tax cuts on the downstream. In another way, to when prices begin to plummet on the international market, especially crude, we also say, or maybe we increase the taxes on the price build-up to make way for revenues mobilized from the downstream for government projects. And I'll give you an example. You know, when government introduced the 1 Ghana cedi, or currently it's 1 Ghana 95 pesos because of the amendment, in 2025, Ghanaians didn't feel it, right? Ghanaians didn't feel it because prices had plummeted and the city had performed better at the local front. So when you introduce even 2 Ghana cedis, the price was even 18 Ghana cedis or even 12 Ghana cedis, Ghanaians wouldn't feel it. So it creates a room for a price stabilization fund, where in that fund, when prices plummet and the city does well, government can adjust taxes upward to a certain cap. In so doing, to when price of the product surge on the international market higher, where we get additional oil revenue, we use that, we cut the taxes on the build-up and then ensure that we use the surplus revenue, the windfall, to cushion the sectors that will need these resources for their policy implementation. And at any time, it helps that prices become stable. We only do price adjustment, higher adjustments, when we observe that it's beyond certain thresholds, and that needs or that demands us to increase our exports prices. And I think that is more sustainable in terms of keeping stability in the economy than this regime where whenever there's any conflict or something out there, it makes prices escalate and push inflation up, distress the forex, and also cause a lot of deficit.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much for speaking to us.
You are welcome, Senator.
Yes. Well, that is Benjamin Nsiah, the Center for Environmental Management and Sustainable Energy, speaking to us. Now, one thing that cannot be taken away from this government is the fact that they respond to virtually everything. And that's one of the things I have always insisted that my measure of a good government is not in we have the men. Me, I don't see that. It's a useless claim. My measure of a good government is responsiveness. Okay, so the issues that confront citizens, the extent to which the government responds to those issues timeously and in a manner that helps the citizens is what I assess as a good government. A good government. So, as far as I'm concerned, this government is a good government. It's a fantastic government because all you need is talk. Plip, 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 plip. They'll come and do something. So that is responsiveness, and that is great about the government. You need responsiveness because if they are not responsive, they will not be accountable. If they are not responsive, none of your problems will be solved. So there are many things that will happen if the government is not responsive. If the government is a type of government that would virtually turn a deaf ear to you, then you know that you have elected a very bad government. You will die because the government doesn't care. The government is not responsive to anything at all. But if you have this kind of government who, when you complain about one person, they will come and try to explain to you why that is responsiveness. So at least you know this is a government that you can hold to account. So that's great about
sometimes
them.
it's a strategy that has done.
But it depends. You know, it's a case by case matter. It's a case by case matter. So sometimes you are wondering, okay, is this the appropriate response? Was this response needed in the first place? But they have responded. It means that at least they are listening. Do you understand? The fact that the person gives you the indication that, no, I'm listening to you. And whatever you say, I want to assure you that if it concerns you, I'll do something about it. It's great. It's the very first step that is important. That's what I call a good government, responsiveness. Now we have to assess the response. Okay. That is another separate matter altogether. So at least you commend the government for at least caring enough to go and sit at a meeting and make these decisions. Even when things look like they are moving in the right direction, they want to push it towards that direction faster. We thank them for that. Harun Apauriedu is Deputy Managing Director in charge of operations, Metro Mass Transit Limited. They were mentioned yesterday. Good morning to you, and I hope you're well.
Good morning, my brother. I'm good.
And it looks like a portion of a strategy of government heavily depends on you. I'm sure you heard the president's marching orders. Are you in the position to do what the president said you must do?
Exactly the point. Let me say good morning to our cherished or your cherished listeners, and also a very good morning to your good self and perhaps those studio members. Like Randy pointed out, we are carrying the instructions of His Excellency the President to the latter. And already, as you observe, we had already deployed most of our buses for intra-city operations and intercity operations as part of our core mandates, being the foundational reasons why Metro Mass was established. So this morning, buses which routed to Accra last night, this morning we have further instructed to reroute them to be able to meet or to curtail down the rush hour movement in Accra. In addition to that, all our EV buses currently routing from Adenta, Medina, Oyarifa, all the way to Accra proper, here I've been Kimbu, then Circle, Ministries, that enclave, Another set of buses are also routing from Carnation to Kaswa. Others are also routing all the way from Nungwa to Tema, just to make sure that you'll be able to mitigate the situation on the ground, as we've been directed and instructed by His Excellency the President, which is also within our core mandate to live up to that expectation.
Additionally, we understand you have 100 new buses in town.
Exactly the point. And let me also once again say,
Hello, Mr. Wedu. Hello. 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 Well, please try and get him back on the line for us. So we'll get Harun Apauredu back on the line. He was talking about what they are doing about the president directive. He said they are already doing that. They've taken steps. In fact, they started doing that when we had that problem. When the issue of public transportation became an issue of discussion on all the major media networks across the country. They said they did some rearrangements. So that's what they are just enhancing. I was asking him about the 100 buses, whether there was going to some update on it, whether when they will be in operation, are they already in operation, and what next, what happens next. Anyway, well, sorry, we lost you there, Shirley, and thank you
Sure.
for rejoining us. I was asking about 100 buses.
yes, exactly the point. Like I said, the 100 buses is in line with a manifesto pledge and a promise made, promise fulfilled. As you observe, sometime somewhere around February, when His Excellency the President had opportunity to speak to the nation through Parliament, which was captured in the State of the Nation address, His Excellency gave a timeline of, as part of the retooling, to help Metro Mass secure about 300 buses from the Isuzu company. And this framework has been staggered into 3 phases of supply arrangements. The first phase is scheduled to happen by the close of the first quarter of this year. And as you observe, exactly the point, by the close of the first quarter March, the first phase of the 100 buses arrived at the ports. Currently, I can confidently say that the buses have been duly cleared at the ports, going through some other procedural regulatory registration from DVLA, insurance, and other arrangement that needs to be done. We just finished with a meeting with the ministry. Here, I mean our sector minister, to officially inform him. And out of courtesy, respect, and regard, we are to further inform His Excellency the President, who will then receive the buses on behalf of the people of Ghana and later transfer the buses for full utilization and operation to Metro Mass. So I am sure by next week, God willing, we should be done with all the registration arrangements regarding the roadworthiness of the buses and how those buses will be retooled and reroutes in line with our operational routes that we are currently embarking on. So yes, the 100 buses have arrived. We are expecting the next phase of the 100 buses, making the 200 buses by June, July. Then the last phase of supply, we are also expecting it by the contracts between September and October, by which time the company would have supplied the 300 buses in full. And as you have observed, we are supposed to be routing about 385 routes across Ghana. When Metro Mass was established, as you are aware, Metro Mass was birthed out of then defunct USA. So it was established by an act of Parliament in 2003. President Kufuor began Metro Mass by using some assets then belonging to USA, and those assets became the foundational pillars for the smooth takeoff of Metro Mass. So from 2003 to 2009, Metro Mass had close to about 1,000 buses. When Mills Mahama took over the reins of power by January 7, 2009, the operational buses of the company was about 500 buses. So 500 buses were at various levels of repairs at the technical department. So Mills Mahama, spanning from 2009 to 2016, augmented our fleet level with additional 600 buses. And that pushed our operational buses to 1,100 buses. By 2017, January 7, when the NPP took over, a year after, sometime around 2018, about 300 buses plus were declared unserviceable because of poor maintenance culture at the time, and those buses were scrapped. 2 months into the elections of 2024, additional 313 buses were also scrapped by the Kufuor administration and given to some cronies and individuals. And that brought our fleet level to all-time low in the history of the company. Currently, we are doing just averagely about 115 operational buses, 115 buses. As you observe, when Metro Mass was established, we had 10 regional capital points, 110 district capital points. Ghana's population at the time was around 12 million. Currently, we are battling with over 35 million Ghanaians as a population. Our regional capital points have increased from 10 to 16. District capital points have also ballooned from 1,100 to over 260 district capital points. And surprisingly, that is the more reason why His Excellency the President, when we came as new management, he gave us a performance contract that the way to go for Metro Mass is to go cashless. So we'll be able to eliminate the hand-to-hand transactions, block the leakages, the pilfering, and the stealing. So the boost can be very strong enough to attract any potential partnership of a kind in terms of a business, so that the foreign investors, local investors within the transport sector can come on board and partner Metro Mass with government of Ghana, creating the enabling environment for us to attract a deal like the Isuzu deal. And President gave us a 3-month performance contract to fully automate our system. For purposes of our listeners, around 2015-2016, His Excellency the President, then John Mahama, initiated and launched the Tap and Go. When the NPP took over after 2017, they were able to only upscale it 45% across Ghana. So the performance contract given to us was to make sure within 3 months to fully automate our system 100%. And confidently and out of humility and pride, currently we've been able to, within 2 months, connect all our operational points. So we are now cashless with our e-ticketing and the Tap and Go. And that is what has ballooned our revenue mobilization from 9 million under the previous government averagely by routing over 250 buses, as against now we routing 115 buses, recording the highest ever revenue in the history of the company. We are now doing around 18 million Ghana cedis a month. Averagely, we are doing around 15 million Ghana cedis with just about 115 buses. And government of Ghana, ably led by His Excellency the President, listening to the cry of the Ghanaian public, especially our transport operators, those who use it, our market women, those in the hinterlands. And as you observe, Metro Mass, we are supposed to serve the underserved communities, places where it is difficult or it becomes difficult for private transport operators to route. We are mandated to route. So that is the more reason why, on the strength of our book, ably supported by government, we have commencement authorization from the Ministry of Finance and ably supported by PPA. So with all those approvals given, when the Isuzu look through our books, then they realize that indeed, if we are able to generate around 18 million Ghana cedis, pure cashless, with our ITMS doing the collection of the revenue straight away into our accounts, no hand-to-hand transaction. With this, if you're able to generate this amount of money, then if they are going to give us 300 buses, with a surety that within a period of 3 years, we should be able to pay for those buses. And those buses, the titles to those buses will be transferred to Metro Mass, by extension to the people of Ghana. And those buses automatically become the property of the state. So this and many other transport operators and investors, currently we are engaging to make sure that just as the President promised, we'll be able to get not less than 1,000 buses to fully be able to route through the 385 route. Currently, we are doing just about 85 routes out
Okay.
of 385.
385.
Yes, 385.
Nationally,
Nationally, the whole Ghana, the active operational routed areas in Ghana is 385. But because the fleet level has gone all-time low, we are currently doing just about 85 routes.
how many of
And
these
within,
routes are within the Greater Accra region?
again,
How many of it? How many out of the 385 is within Greater Accra?
well, in Greater Accra, currently, we are using our EV buses. You know, we are doing Madina, Adenta, Oyarefa to Accra proper, Kimbu. We are also doing to Circle, Madina to Circle. We are doing Kaneshi to Kaswa. We are also doing Kaneshi to Tema. We are doing from Nungwa to Tema, right? And then we are also doing Tema to Aflao, Accra to Kumasi, Accra to Takrade, Accra to Wa, Accra to Kufurubia, Accra to Borga, and back. As I said, currently the whole of Ahafu region we are not routing, spanning from Vidium, Achinsia, Gonsum, Mim, all the way to Kasapen, Sankore area. We are not routing. If you take the northern part of Western region, so if we are Asaninaso, Adabukrum, all the way to Budi area, we are not routing. If you look at the northern part of Water region, from Intumuru, Krache, Bandai, all the way up north, we are not routing because the fleet level has gone all-time low, as I put it. So clearly, this is the time that indeed we are also grateful to His Excellency for his timely intervention. Other than that, I would be courageous enough to tell you that if the change had not happened, Metro Mass, I wouldn't be surprised, would have been insolvent. Because when we came to meet, it is really a very pathetic story. Can you just imagine at the time, then management, they took fuel to the tune of about 28 million Ghana cedis from Guel, and no payment was made to that effect. Currently, within the last 10 months, after last 2 weeks, when we reconcile the figures, we have closed part of that debt from a staggering 28 million Ghana cedis to about 17 million Ghana cedis now, of which every month we're supposed to pay part of the debt. Our workers, in terms of their welfare and well-being, His Excellency the President admonished us, now that the books are looking good and the revenues are coming, can you just imagine a conductor of the company under the elsewhere administration for the last 8 years, conductors were paid just a paltry 750 Ghana cedis a month. A driver takes less than 1,100 Ghana cedis. The President admonished us to make sure the resetting agenda really translates into the lives of our people. And as a result of that, conductor salary has been increased. As we speak, their salaries were increased from 750 over 100% to about 1,500. Drivers are now taking at a little above 2,000. Again, just a few months ago, we also did appraisal for them, and they had astronomical jump in terms of their take home at the end of the month. Critical staff had 25%. Critical staff here, I mean, our conductors, the drivers, and the technicians or the mechanics. Then the senior staff also were given 20%.
Mr. Paredo, it's great to hear that you are making some progress in trying to deal with the problems that you met. I think maybe one of the things we can do is try to arrange for you to come into studio and then we'll have a conversation on this. But I would like to thank you for speaking to us this morning.
Most grateful, my brother. Thank you so much.
Yeah. So we'll try and bring him in studio so that we understand some of the things they are doing and within what time period they hope to be able to overcome most of the problems. But he said they are ready at least to deal with the challenge that the president asked them to do. They are hoping to finish the registration for all these buses by next week. The president commissions it and they go on the road. But they have already done some, like I said, rearrangement, rerouting so that some of their buses, including the EV buses, will be in some areas. When they are there, please do patronize them. You are the reason they are on the roads. People have some very interesting responses to everything. Do patronize these buses, else it will become a wasted effort because transportation costs a lot of money to do. the person has to buy fuel, put them on the road. One of the things you need to do is be conscious when it comes to, and deliberate when it comes to Ghanaian owned businesses. So please, sit in those buses. Enjoy the drive. Meanwhile, we are still waiting for the Energy Ministry and the Finance Ministry to tell us which taxes they have agreed to suspend for now. Let's see what Atu will agree to. They say Atu is like his father. And I will say Tekpe. They don't like cutting like that. Cutting is a problem. When they do the mass, 1+1. This one, if I cut it, it will affect me. Like, very good monitor. I will say Tekpe. Anyway, we'll do some business. Take a break, come back. We'll switch to some very sad news.
You talk about Ghanaian-owned businesses.
Yeah.
I back for no petition now, Kwana.
Yes, I think I've seen Fourth Estate.
I'd wanted
Oh,
to join.
no, not them. I think I am talking about the engineers who've taken a petition over this sole sourcing matter. Okay. IBAG is what?
Insurance Brokers Association of Ghana.
Okay. Petition about?
I bet they say that SIC is getting all the jobs. So they want to
Which
petition.
jobs? Like every